someone like cookies?
No, thank you.
No. Sandy? Don't make me eat all these on my own. Matt? Would you like a cookie? No, I'm sorry. Oh, what that do with I know. Okay, we're back in open session at 6:13. I do apologize for us running a little bit over, but we are going to try to keep on time here and get everybody out of here as fast as we possibly can. Okay, we're on item number 4, the invocation. Matt, if you will lead us in that, please.
Will you rise and pray with me? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the people who have gathered here tonight, community members and volunteers and moms and dads and athletes and administrators from across our community. We are so grateful for each and every one of them. We pray that you would bless the work of this district, continue to show yourself as a real Father to those of us who are looking to Christmas next week. We pray that you would bless each individual here with safety as they travel away from this place. And we pray these things in your name. Amen.
So at this time, we are going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a couple of students from Young Elementary, Rosie and Lucy Caraway. Rosie's a 4th grader, Lucy's a 1st grader, and their parents over here are Kason and Emma Caraway. So are you girls, are y'all ready to lead us? If you'll turn towards the flag, hand over a heart. And you ready? Okay. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice of all. Thank you, girl. Y'all. Okay, y'all can be seated. Although, oh, did you want to do that, Moni? Yeah, we can. Okay, next on, we're going to go to item number 6, and we have a very special recognition tonight of those that have competed and achieved at the state level. We are going to recognize the Lady Eagle Volleyball State Champions. Woo! As well as the Decatur Eagles cross-country athletes and Decatur FFA who also competed at the state level. So Monique, are you okay, I'll leave it to you then.
Hi, everyone. I have the pleasure of reading our names of lists. We do have a lot of students, and so we're super excited. We're going to start off welcoming Kylie Barthold. And she's walking up with Melanie Titter. Okay, next we have our cross-country students. We're going to start with Giselle Martinez. Reagan Nix. And Madison Schwab. We're also going to welcome the coaches, Coach David Park and Coach Shanda Spain. We do have one other cross-country student who was not able to be here tonight. Our other runner was Tate Clackler, and he did have to work tonight, so we want to honor and respect that. All right, last but not least, the moment we are waiting for. We're going to start with our volleyball players, and then we'll do coaches and managers as well. We're going to start with Peyton Dixon. Aubrey Duncan. Hope Escobar. Grace Fortune. Ava Green. Grayson Harrison. Caroline Hayes. Laura Hornsby. Tatum Huff. Lily Lowry. Ava Miller, Lexi Miller, Raven Noble, Ella C., Harper Smith, Everett Swift, Gracie Trulson, Avery Walsh, Anna Wren, and then we've also got joining us Avery Freeman, Abby Saylor, Brandon Pounds, and then we also want to invite our coaches up. Coach Morgan May, Coach Brooke Corneliuson, and our Coach of the Year, Coach Stormy Snyder. All right, we're going to take a moment just to get photos really quick. We got a big bunch. And I think everyone knows this, but this is Coach Snyder's first year with Decatur ISD, so we're immensely happy to have her. I think I forgot to bring my ladder.
That is cool. Wonder if she's ever gotten one. I have to ask her if she's ever gotten one of those before.
No, I'm sure she
Yeah, that's the volleyball team gave her somewhere. State medal. They gave Dr. Brewer a state medal. I was going to ask her if she's ever got one of those before. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Monique? That is cool. Okay, we are back with those that are left. Not sure we got enough people here to fill the ping pong team, but that's okay. We're going to move on to item number 7, which is public forum. We don't have anybody signed up for public forum, so we will go right to the superintendent's report with Dr. Rue.
All righty, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here on a December board meeting, and to know that we have so much to look forward to in the year to come, and so much to have celebrated, as you heard just now. So I just have just a few brief things to share with you. I want to thank all of the principals, students, and administrators throughout the district who supported the Live Thankfully cause, which is a food drive through the Christmas holidays. So many of you, raise your hand if you participated in Live Thankfully and you got out there and helped. We thank you very much. Good work. And I got to experience the tradition of the longevity checks to staff. That was a terrific way to celebrate individual staff members. And then this past Friday, it was the FFA show at the fairgrounds. Raise your hand if you were at the fairgrounds too. There were a bunch of people here. Mr. Lackey also was there. The little celebrity pig show, and I know where my talents lie. I did not opt in. I opted out. I thought I could harm an animal and who knows what else. So I thought, no, I won't do that. But nonetheless, a lot of good things happening. We hope everyone has a wonderful, just terrific Christmas holiday and a joyous celebration of the new year, and we'll look forward to seeing all of our kids back in January. So that's it for tonight.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rue. Number 9 is consent agenda. We have 2 items under there, personnel and minutes of the November 18th, 2024 regular meeting. Do we have a motion to approve these?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Got a motion from Delvin. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Nate. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 10, which is an informational item. This is concerning the demographic report that was recently done.
I do not see Mr. Temple. Have you seen him come in yet? I do know that Mr. Templeton was at another board meeting prior to coming here, so he may be in transit.
Okay.
We'll just have to move on then.
Yeah, we'll move on, and if he shows up, then we can.
Oh, there he is.
Oh,
There he
okay.
is.
Perfect timing. As if on cue.
That was beautiful.
He was just
timing.
looking for a dramatic entrance. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I bet you were.
If you go out there now, there's plenty of parking spots, but.
Mm-hmm. It will be there if you'll go back to the board meeting agenda. And you go up higher. You go up. The demographic report is right there. There you go. Oh, you put him on block.
So it's on. There you go, sir.
Well, good evening, Board President, members of the board. Dr. Rue, it is great to be with you tonight. And tonight I'll be presenting our demographic report from the research we've done. It's composed of interviewing the city, interviewing builders, developers. We work with about 30 school districts in the DFW area, and this process started a couple of months ago. We've also geocoded your students so that we can understand the students, where they live, the patterns that happened with mobility, and tonight I'll go over the findings of our report. Okay, we'd like to start with kind of the big picture on the economic conditions You can see this is a graph representing the unemployment rates for the DFW region and also for Wise County. You'll also notice the big spike. The big spike was the pandemic's impact on businesses with workforce shutting down. And you'll also notice over the last couple of years, the unemployment rate's been at about 4%, which is basically fully employed. Anytime you're in that below 5% range, it can become a real challenge to fill especially service positions. We've seen this with just about all of our clients dealing with hiring for substitutes, for grounds, transportation, food service. And on top of that, the DFW region is the strongest region economically for job growth and for population growth. Again, Texas is seeing strong growth across its major cities, but Dallas-Fort Worth is #1 in terms of overall population and job growth. When we look at the overall housing pattern for the DFW region, you can see that the purple line is the annualized start rate for the region. The turquoise line is the annualized closing rate. You can see we've been building well over 40,000 homes per year. It really took a dramatic increase back in the spring of 2020. The pandemic caused a very unusual pattern for new housing, caused it to really accelerate. And then we also had really low interest rates at that time. And you can see when the market kind of plateaued at over 50,000 single-family homes, the Fed started raising the rates. The start rates really dropped off pretty dramatically. And the good news is over the last 3 quarters, starts and closings have gotten back together. We're seeing a much healthier market in terms of construction and closings. And also, we're above where we were prior to the pandemic. And so the overall housing market, even though it is facing headwinds with higher cost, the high interest rates, but the new home market is handling some of those challenges pretty well. We also look at total home sales for the region by month. The gold bar represents the monthly home sales in 2024. The key thing to kind of point out here is what we're seeing with pricing. We still have not seen a softening in the price of homes across the region. In 2023, September, the average price was about $487,000, and in June or September of 24, almost $500,000. Again, it's because the demand is still so strong from just people continuing to move into the region. When we look specifically at the housing activity in Decatur ISD, it does follow a similar trend in that we had really strong years for total home sales in 2020 with over 600. In 2021, 588, and then the impact of the interest rates caused it to drop off in 22 and in 23. Year to date through November, right at 320 homes, so likely going to be a little bit less than 400 total home sales in 2024. Now, this is the average sale price for a new home in Decatur ISD and the average sale price of an existing home in Decatur. And again, you can see a similar pattern to where it took dramatic increases in the pricing in 21 and in 22. It has kind of leveled off a little bit in 2024, but the average price for a new home in Decatur is $563,000. Average price for an existing home sale is $441,000. Now, when we kind of look at your district, the black outline is your elementary attendance zones. The green shaded areas are the active subdivisions that are building single-family homes. The yellow shaded areas are the future subdivisions that are in the planning stages. So we do have a good bit of activity across the district. We've got 12 actively building subdivisions. We've got 12 future subdivisions that are in various stages of planning. And we have groundwork underway in 3 subdivisions. Those are the subdivisions that have the red outlines. Now, I'll go into the details of these. We've got Hillcrest Meadows North, which is in the Carson Elementary Attendance Zone, about 123 lots. There were 12 homes under construction when we did the research, and all of the lots have been delivered. The average yield, student yield of students per home, is 0.531. And again, we get that by geocoding your students to their address, so it is your actual yield. And that's about average from what we see. Some can yield a little lower, some can yield a little higher. It depends on the price point is primarily and the higher the price point of the homes tend to yield a little older students, so they can be a little more of the secondary grade levels, and the more affordable homes tend to yield a little higher with elementary students. Now we've got a future just down the road from Hillcrest Meadows North, which is Hillcrest Meadows South. It's 86 future lots. The groundwork is underway. The road work is taking place. We anticipate homes maybe by the summer, so mid-2025 is when we could see some construction there. There's the satellite image from just a couple of months ago. Next, we're looking at Naomi Crossing. Got a couple of futures on this slide. Naomi Crossing is 15, so it's a smaller. It is, these are about 4 to 5 bedroom homes. The builder is Home Route Luxury Homes. And then next we've got Hawk Ridge Edition, which is 56 total lots, 8 vacant developed lots there. The student yield in Hawk Ridge, 0.563. Again, about average for what we see. And then we've got a smaller Quail Creek, 19 total lots, 17 vacant developed lots, really just getting started with 2 occupied homes. And then to the south there, we've got a large, very large concept plan. This is probably still a few years out before it becomes active, but it is just that pattern of growth that is working its way north up 287. We work with Northwest ISD. Very strong activity has now finally gotten to Rome and that area. And so it's just a matter of time before it does work its way out further into Decatur ISD. But Shroop Ranch represents 2,070 future lots. The developer is Rock Hill Capital, and it is a large enough number that I would hope they would have some discussions with the district about a school site. That would just about fill up a school, but it would take it 10 years or so to build out that number. Again, I would just hope that the developer would be willing to have a discussion on about 15 acres for a school site. In my view, any development that has over 1,000 lots, they should want to entertain a school site because it's an amenity for the development. It's a real draw for them, and it's good for the community. Next, we're looking at the Cedar Spring Estates. I'd say it's a smaller. Okay. It's a little different look on my screen. Cedar Spring Estates, 20 vacant developed lots, custom homes, so it'll be very expensive. 8 lots have sold. Again, these can take over a year to build a home of that type. I don't expect it to have a high yield, but it will yield likely some secondary students. This is the Vista Park, which is 397. This is the one that got my attention the most, quite honestly, because it's D.R. Horton. And D.R. Horton, as you probably know, it's the largest builder in the country, based here in Fort Worth, and they're a production builder. So their goal is to work through that 397 lots as fast as possible. I suspect it could be a 2 to 3 year build for them, and when they get started, they'll come in and pour 20 to 30 foundations, and the framing will all take place on those 20 to 30, and so they are about velocity and working through rather quickly. The groundwork is underway, so I suspect they could be starting homes this spring, and so we could likely have families moving into this neighborhood this summer. Pomona Trails, it's another larger. It is 338 future lots. The developer is TWS Land Partners. The groundwork is underway for the site. And then on the corner there, we've got a multifamily tract that's about 480 future multifamily units. Anticipate the construction start dates in the spring, which would take over a year to build that. So again, it could be a year or so before we start to see students moving into Pomona Trails, single family and the multifamily.
Bob, would you remind us of the yield in a multifamily area?
The multifamily yields typically yield much lower than single family. It depends primarily on the number of the bedroom mix. And so when we see the bedroom mix, then we would have a better understanding. But most of these that we're seeing are mostly 2s, and 1s and maybe a handful of 3s. But again, it also ties to the rent rates. So the rent rates, the number of bedrooms, but typically, I was just at Eagle Mountain Saginaw where the average across the entire district is 0.23. So it's about half of what single family is. But also keep in mind, half of that yield is on about 15 acres. So it's a dense yield, even though it's a lower yield, but it's a concentration on a smaller piece of property. Next, we're looking at Juniper Estates, which is 15 total lots, 6 vacant developed lots, 9 homes are occupied. This developer is Perkins Property Ltd. And then on the south side is a future, which is the Nature Creek Reserve, 690 future lots. It's a planned development that's in the early discussion, so we don't have a time frame on this development. The property would need to be annexed into the city. I suspect there's some water issues that we tend to see in these that are kind of on the edges. I would say at best this is 2 to 4 years before you could see this really pick up speed. It's just one of those I would watch very closely. And for me, the rule of thumb is when the bulldozers show up and the earth moving equipment really gets going, that gives you the clue that you got about a year before they have the streets ready and before you start to see homes. So then it's another 6 months on top of that before you would likely see occupied homes. Now, on the multifamily overview, very similar. We've zoomed into the district. The darker outlines are your elementary attendance zone outlines. We've got basically 4 projects we're tracking here. The purple are multifamily that are under construction. The turquoise are planned multifamily. 200 units are under construction, and about 750 multifamily units are in the planning stages. I'll go into some of these details. Deer Park, which is 204 units, the construction began early in 2024. They should be finished in 2025, and you can see the picture there, and the location is close to the middle school, not far from the STEAM school. Bishop Heights is a planned multifamily project that is 282 units. Anticipate the construction starting in the spring of 25, so then it could be finished in the summer of 26. Its location to the schools does cause me to think that one could yield a little higher as families want to take advantage of the location. So this one could yield a little higher. Again, we'll want to see the bedroom mix to really determine how that's going to yield. This is your current multifamily yield analysis. So those shaded areas are multifamily projects that have about 145 students residing in about 900 units across the district. The average yield across the district is 0.158. The green shaded ones are yielding less than 0.25. The yellow are yielding between 0.25 and 0.5. Another piece of data that we look at is we look at your student database. We look at the IDs, the student ID numbers, and we compare them to the previous years because we're primarily looking for new student IDs to the district. We call those newcomers, and then student IDs that are missing are leavers. The turquoise shaded bar is the new to the district IDs. The purple shaded bar is student IDs that have left. We don't count the kindergarten class as newcomers because they're all newcomers, and we also don't count the senior class leaving as leavers. But what you'll notice is prior to 2022, including the 22 year, newcomers outnumbered leavers in 21 and in 2022. But in 23 and in 24, we saw an increase in the number of leavers over the last 2 years. I suspect it's hard to really quantify exactly the reasons for some of those, but a trend that we're seeing across the state is the homeschool pattern. So homeschool is likely a significant factor in this. Some of that could be traced in your leaver codes that the district keeps track of. But it is something that we're working to get better answers on across the state. I am hopeful that in the next legislative session, we could get some help with tracking of the homeschool numbers. Many states do track the homeschool numbers so that we could then have a better understanding of the patterns in all of our districts. Now, I've created two levels of projections, and primarily I created the two levels of projections because this is a legislative session year. This is going to be a significant year with likely the advancement of a voucher, and so we've built in a very conservative low scenario. That's the next one. So the mid-range is based on, the building of single-family homes, seeing that 0.5 yield in those homes. We should see about 50 students of growth over the next couple of years, and then as these new developments come online and as the growth continues to move north, it's really just a matter of time before your numbers really do start to grow in that 3% range. It's not a matter of if, it's just when. When does the momentum keep coming northwest? And if D.R. Horton is successful, then D.R. Horton will do it again, and then Lennar will be looking, and Pulte, other production builders will start to explore Decatur as they watch to see how fast D.R. Horton moves through that. There's plenty of land, so the land is not an issue. Certainly infrastructure could be in terms of water. So, but with this scenario, the mid-range scenario, in 5 years, your enrollment could top 4,000, and in 10 years, you could be at over 4,800 students. Here's what it looks like at the campus level. Oh, excuse me. Here's the low range. So this is the low range forecast where I'm being a little more conservative for the next 2 years, and then it picks up a little slower pace. So instead of growing 2 to 3%, it's only growing about 1%. So a much slower pace of growth under this low scenario. Here's the mid-range forecast by campus. And you can see at the elementary campuses, you're in pretty good shape when we look at your functional capacity. The middle school, though, is at capacity right now, and so it only accelerates in terms of its challenges. In about 2 years, you'll be over 900 students. You'll settle in at that mid-900 range for that, 7 to 8 year period, and then in 9 to 10 years, you could be over 1,000 students. At your high school, you will likely be at that capacity level in about 5 years, and so some little bit of a challenge there at the secondary versus at the elementary. You're in pretty good shape. Under the low scenario, you've still got some middle school challenges. Your high school backs up a year to 2 before it reaches its capacity, but right now the focus, in my view, is middle school capacity. So I'll do key takeaways and be ready to answer some questions. Higher home sale prices, interest rates, conditions, they have contributed to the lower home sale numbers in the district. There's a chance we could see about a 1/4 point drop in the interest rate in the first quarter of 2025. I think we'll just have to wait and see what happens with inflation, what happens with some other factors. But ideally, the younger home buyers really need that interest rate to be closer to 5%. Right now, it's closer to 7%. So it's in that mid to 6.5 to 6.8 range. And so getting that interest rate down could really help with younger buyers. The district has 12 actively building subdivisions, so we are still seeing some activity even with these interest rates. We've got 12 futures that are in the planning stages. We do expect that the district's forecast could fall between 3,900 and 4,185 in 5 years, and in 10 years it could be between 4,100 and 4,800 students. I'd be happy to answer any questions. The low and mid. I'm not feeling a high. I don't know if it's because of just the uncertainty in the economic conditions. When I say the uncertainty in the economic conditions, I got a bid on blinds for my house. And I'm not going to get these blinds until about April. They sent me a new notice, and they put a line in there that said potential tariff increase. And so it's 10%, what that did to that. And then I was talking to another friend of mine who's building a house. The same thing happened to him on his appliance package. So although we don't know about the tariffs, but the builders are already concerned about it. So it is a factor that could impact the housing market because of labor, because of the stuff that we get. And so therefore, it's just an additional cloudy issue for the housing market is not only the interest rates, but now what's going to happen with economic conditions.
McCarroll, are you including the portables in your demographic?
In the capacity?
Correct.
I'm not sure. I don't know that the portables are included. I'll have to confer with the admin. No, they're not included.
And roughly, what's the capacity of the portable? Or we have 4 portables, correct?
4 portables, 2 classrooms each, 8 classrooms.
So 200 students
That's at the middle school?
at the middle school. I mean, I think it's important to reference that with the capacity levels.
Well, if you think of additional questions, don't hesitate to send them on. We're a resource. We're anxious for this session, and because I think it is going to have some profound implications on education. We're diving into looking at new ways to look for data to help us with that, and so we're definitely be bringing some of our new data resources later this spring.
I also want to point out that for the first time since I've been engaged in administration in public schools, TEA released their proposed, what they believe to be typical enrollment projections for the next biennium. And this is the first time they've released declining enrollment across the state other than fast growth systems. So I think your comments specifically to economic conditions, interest rate, and the builders themselves taking a little bit of a watch and see aspect to this may all of this can contribute to what I look at. Okay, I'll say it like this: we've got the opportunity. That Decatur has the opportunity in seeing what's coming, and yet realizing it's not coming tomorrow. To have the time with foresight and thoughtful preparation, be ready for it, and get the planning and the construction in, so that it dovetails with when the kids are arriving. So this, while it may not turn around and happen in the next 2 years, this gives the district 2 years to get things in place and be ready for it.
Well, thank you again, and if you think of questions, please don't hesitate to send them my way, and thank you for allowing me to be early on your agenda.
Thank you. We appreciate all the information.
Safe travel.
Okay, next up is item number 11, discussion items. We have a DEIC calendar update for the 25-26. Dr. Wooten.
Find it. Right here.
I was going to say it's right here.
Isn't it this one?
That's the picture.
Right here? Oh, no.
It should be. Okay, you got this.
But that's not the
The
update.
one you sent me,
Mm-hmm.
which should be here under documents. Always fun to do. I thought I had it open. Calendar.
Yeah, none of them are open, so. Oh, that one will be.
Let's go view and then look. There we go. That's real.
Okay. Well, good evening. So tonight, this is just an update. This is just letting you know where we are with some of the planning that is going into 4-day. So the first thing that is on, and I also gave you a hard copy because sometimes it's just easier to do that rather than on the computer. This is just the timeline. This timeline was presented to you at the last calendar planning update we did. Just so you know, if you look through at September, October, November, and December, we are on target for all of our timelines as far as working with within the surveys, the transportation routes, and then just the work that DIC has started since October, November, and December. Here is just, you've seen this. This was sent to you, and of course we posted it on our websites, but we did a hybrid calendar survey just to get a feel for how our community and our parents and our teachers felt about the hybrid that was the calendar this year. And so overall, there were 1,615 responses. Overall was positive feedback. We were able to get some areas addressed. You'll notice that we have students on this, parents, community, employees. Were all part of this survey. This was a little bit different from surveys in the past because we did ask for student input into this. Overall, how satisfied are you with your family's experience with the current hybrid calendar? You can see there the pie chart of very positive, somewhat negative, and very negative, with overwhelmingly being positive.
Hey, Dr. Wooten, just a quick question on as far as the student feedback, only at
Yes.
10.96, do we have what those, like the sheer number of students who participated looks like compared to that total?
I can get that to you. I don't have that on this one, so I don't want to misquote some of the student feedback. So yeah, let me get that. I'll get that to you and send it to you. I'll send it to the board as a whole, the breakdown. Perfect. I can do that for you. I'll give you the breakdown on each of them. That way you can get a good feel. And so DIC meetings, we've had a September 5th meeting, October 10th, November 7th, and December 5th. Consistency as far as feedback from our DIC members that represent our campuses as well as community. Just consistency being a priority, teacher prep time, earlier start times to avoid late dismissal. A lot of the earlier start times was elementary, was a big push with that one. Meetings with teachers, November 8th, teachers had a 4-day planning day. November 15th, I personally was in front of all the teachers and met with every campus talking about 4-day planning progress, had an open Q&A. We have also, since that meeting, have updated the FAQ just on all the different questions. Some questions could be answered right then and there. Other questions we needed to research. Some of it had to do with transportation, which Kyle has spent more time than he probably would have liked to with me on just transportation and feedback with that. And so all of that is ready to go. Those updates will be posted on our calendar planning webpage. So it is the most current and the most up to date. This has been a huge resource, I think, because it is completely transparent. Every meeting we've ever had, everything you ever wanted to know about calendar planning and that you didn't probably want to know about calendar planning is on this website. And so we'll continue to update that with like this PowerPoint will go up there as well. So if anybody wants to reference or look at, they can do that. And so through DIC, during that planning process, actually what DIC saw was 3 different calendar options. You will never get 100% of where they like every single calendar, but DIC works very, very hard to try and get every single option there that encompasses all the needs and the wants that the community and the campus is represented. So they were given those 3 options, and they were asked to vote on those options, with calendar option A and option B being the one that DIC overwhelmingly, with 68 points, I have it in front of me, somewhere in all my pages. Yes, it was 68.8% wanted A and B. And so those will be the 2 calendar options that we move forward with on our survey that will go out tomorrow after the board meeting. And so if you were to look at that in your packets, I gave you a hard copy because it's a lot easier to kind of look off of that. With the differences, and so you'll see that current 24-25 times, that's just letting you know where we are. And that next year's school times, you got elementary starting at 7:30 as well as middle school, so we're not changing too much on anybody since we worked really hard to push them back a little bit and gradually introduce this to everyone. And then with high school wanting to start at 8, we did move them to 8, and they're going to go to 4:15. That's an 8-hour and 15-minute length of day. There's 3 5 weeks in option A, and there's 2 of the 5 weeks in August for option B. And then you can see your student days there, you can see the staff days, and then just your start date. And then we went ahead and put in where DEIC is leaning is for the professional development days, those Fridays where the teachers are in, is basically like a half work day and a half either campus or district PD day. That might tweak a little bit depending upon if it's the end of the 9 weeks and things of that nature, just making sure that we are very conscientious of that and intentional. And those are the same forms there, just with the differences for each of your options.
I do want to point out, you'll see on that page in your packet, pending final transportation logistics. So we, at this point, have elementary and middle school starting at the same time, and that is possible should the board decide that you may want to look at any additional buses for the next school year. So this is very definitely while the calendar itself, it can certainly be adopted, the school times will need to be adjusted accordingly. Make sense?
That's a question. On the stipends for teachers to serve on summer committees, was that considered into the potential cost savings?
And so, no. Initially, when we were looking at some of those cost savings, that was not one of the considerations. But as we went and we paid attention to the hybrid calendar survey, then we paid attention to what DIC feedback was, and then the teacher feedback. Those are things that I do want us looking at and considering. And I'll get into that a little bit with the moving forward as far as things that we're currently looking at.
on that slide. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. So first part of this year, obviously, was focusing in on creating the calendars, addressing all the concerns, making sure we are being true to what the board voted on last year with a 4-day, and making sure we're in sync with that. Second half, not that logistics haven't been, we've started that as well, but then once we get this, then the push can be much more with regards to the logistics. So up and coming for spring semester, there's 2 more 4-day planning dates coming up for February 14th and May 16th. I've already reached out to the counselors so that, and what we're going to create is essentially a web page of resources with activities to address some of the anxiety and stress for our students. If you go back to that hybrid calendar, some of the comments, it wasn't overwhelming, but there was some comments that were made just with stress and some of the anxiousness. And so I feel we as a district need to do our due diligence and put out resources for our community so that that can assist and help with. And there's no one better than the counselors in Decatur ISD to make that happen. So we'll be working on the spring semester for that. The considering stipends for teachers to serve on summer committees. So one of the other things that popped up, once again, not an overwhelming number, but there was still that element of boredom. And so if we I would like to get some teachers together so that we could, especially at the elementary, when you start getting into secondary, their workload's pretty hefty anyway, plus with all the extracurriculars, but at elementary to start, of creating, once again, resources that align obviously with our TEKS and are by grade level at the elementary level, and start getting some of those academic activities that could be done independently depending upon age, and then more family oriented. And that will be another thing that I would like to work on with teachers, whether that's after school second semester, but you all know how STAR is and testing, so I don't want this to be an overwhelming experience, but something possibly for us to do over the summer. And so that's one area that we're looking at. And then the other thing is just, I'd like to administer a survey at some point to teachers, because I do want to gauge what the interest level would be of, not on the Friday that the teachers have their professional learning, but possibly on another Friday for some accelerated instruction intervention for some of those kiddos that struggled, and see if we have interest of teachers working that particular half day on one Friday. We would be consistent with it, and see where we are from there. Once again, I'm going to answer the question that you asked before. Was this taken into account as far as cost savings? And the answer is no. This is not. This is based on feedback that we have received just on what about our kiddos. I also attended some of the PTO meetings. That was a couple statements that some of the parents had made. So once again, doing our due diligence as a district just to really address those concerns and see what we're working with. And so that's another thing that.
So in that instance, would that be a stopping potentially as well for those teachers coming in?
It would be. Yes, sir.
Should it occur?
Should it occur? Yes, if the interest is there. But I won't know until I ask.
So is that going to be based on student achievement, or is that going to be based on just willingness of teachers?
Probably both, if we're being completely transparent. We need to have the teachers that are willing and want to do that. I would say we would start at the elementary level. But as far as based on achievement, it wouldn't be just open to everyone. We would be looking at those kiddos that would be good contenders, possibly how they're performing this year into next year. Also, no, we always do summer school, so we kind of set up like that. And so the summer school, based on the response that we get there, that would be another source of data for us to use for that component. Child nutrition, so Feeding Wise Kids, they are amazing. That's the Backpack Buddies. They're going to continue with us, confirm that. They'll help us out any way they can. Also with Learning Ladder, that we're looking at possibly opening up. We could go up to 2 campuses, but definitely we already have one. And so we're investigating the possibility of providing a lunch program there as well. My goodness, what is in my throat? And that's going to be set up very similar to summer school as well, for them. And then childcare, if you look up here, Learning Ladder is open to opening more space. And then you have Rise Church and University of Gymnastics that are definitely interested in assisting us and providing on Fridays some assistance with that, with childcare. And then if you look down below that, depending on space and staffing, Cornerstone Community Church and Pettit Private School, those are ones that they just kind of need to see what their staffing is and so forth. But I will also say for some of those places that we talked to, they wanted to really see what are we looking at from a calendar perspective before they committed to anything.
Do you know, just offhand, how much more capacity Learning Ladder is capable? I mean, I know it's going to depend on how much we think is, but what do they even have available?
Well, if we opened up a second, like say we did 2 campuses, that basically would give us double what we currently have. I'd have to check with Jessica, but I want to say they have anywhere between 30 and 40. Don't quote me on it. I'll put that in the board update too, just so you have that. And so that would be made available for them.
Okay. That they could add 30 to 40 more kids?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if we open up the second one. And then she has not, I did ask her this, and there's a list of, I probably gave her like 30 questions, but I asked her currently, I'm like, are you at capacity, like right now? Are you? And she is not. And even on those Fridays, she has not been either. Mm-hmm. And so obviously she's looking, thank you, sorry, I don't know where it came from. She is looking very closely at what do we got, what space could we have, and obviously if we needed to open up a second one, she's very open. She's been great.
Can I ask a quick curriculum question? In
Yes.
terms of curriculum for 25, 26, I know that in the current academic year, we have a lot of teachers dedicating professional development, personal time, et cetera, et cetera.
to modifying the 5-day curriculum to a 4-day curriculum, are there reasonable assurances that they will stay with the current curriculum next academic year?
I think that's a great question with the curriculum. So currently, we have at the elementary levels, Eureka and PhD Science, both of which work within that 4-day curriculum. They're very aware, we're working with great minds on a very consistent basis, that that is the direction that we're going. Not only from a curriculum standpoint, but also from a professional learning standpoint. HMH is the reading curriculum, ELA curriculum that we have basically K through 12. We've been in contact with HMH with regards to, we're moving to a 4-day. You know, I know because she's got other districts that have already moved to a 4-day. Can you give us the skinny so much on what's worked, what hasn't worked, and can you provide some sort of PD where you come in and work with our teachers? Because I feel like that's probably going to be the bigger area. And that's going to be part of spring that we spend time with. In addition to that, used to be called TEACS Resource. It's basically TCPM, PCM. And with that particular deal, it's all of the TEACS are in there, resources are in there, scope and sequence is in there, and their newest addition that they've done, in part because they have quite a few districts that are going to 4-day, is we as a district can put in our calendar once we approve that, and it will completely adjust all of the TEACS to fit that calendar. In addition to being able to fit that calendar, which is all your secondary, part of elementary, your middle school, let's say we got pep rallies at the high school. We have all of these other additional things that are very unique to each campus. Teachers have the ability now to do that as well, and it can automatically help them adjust with that. And so these are the things, when I do my next update, that we'll continue to do, because with curriculum, I think that's probably the biggest area, and I think we've made some really great strides. But those are the things that we'll be looking at. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. We are not introducing new curriculum for our teachers for next year.
The only other one, so Eureka will continue with, because we're going to go with Bluebonnet with that. There was a whole nother, but LASSO grant is one of the grants that we've applied for. And so the Eureka is one of the ones that will remain the same. PhD is going to remain the same. HMH is going to remain the same. The only thing we're looking at, and I don't know for certain yet because I don't know if we've been awarded it, is I purposely started with elementary for the math because we knew math was the biggest hit, especially after COVID. And so now that we have 3 years under our belts with that, these kiddos that are moving into middle school are very, very comfortable with it. Carnegie Math is one of the ones that we're looking at for 6 through 8 math and Algebra 1. Format-wise, it's all the same. Kids are very accustomed to it. It would be a potential curriculum change if we were awarded that. But Ms. Schisler already knows that that's one of the areas that we're looking at. Some of the teachers are going to start seeing firsthand with some training that they're doing, a little, not necessarily for that, but just to get some exposure to it. And we've been assured, since we've already been working with Eureka for so many years, that they will bring in, because it's Carnegie's sisterhood kind of deal, where they can do training with them over the summer as far as working with them on this. And so, yes, there'll still be some change at the middle school, but I also think it's a much needed change because it's been such a hodgepodge with math curriculum in particular, and it's a really solid program, and the Algebra 1 in particular is impressive. Did that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Yes, the format, all of that, they all work. Bluebonnet is what it's called. That's the, essentially TA has become a little bit of a textbook store, so to speak, and creation of textbook. And so these have all been vetted beyond what is typical. And so all of this aligns with TEACS. All of this would have your parent transparency and additional resources and align with STAR testing. So there's a lot of perks to this. And I think the transition from what the kids have been exposed to at elementary now to what they could potentially be exposed to 6 through 8 will be a very good move for us.
And nothing's changing at elementary, and it's an extension of
middle school would be the one that changes. Yeah. Any other questions with that?
Nope.
No?
If you would stay up there for,
Yes, I am.
because you're next
That's
too.
my plan.
Okay, we're going to move on to action items, which is item number 12. First, we have two of those. First one, 12A, discuss and take possible action regarding approving the SHAC recommendations for the following resources: natural high and random acts of kindness. And that is you again, Dr. Wooten.
And actually, I am here, and I will be here to assist, but our chair for SHAC is actually going to be presenting, and that's Miss Tasha Hicks.
Yeah. Hi, welcome.
I'll just sit right behind you.
You can just stay. It's fine. I'll just stay. So the Year at a Glance is something that's a resource on our website that you can view at any time. That was reviewed over the summer by our counselors, and then they updated it as needed. It's also something that gets updated through the school year. It does change, and they kind of, as they're planning for their school year and meeting, they'll update that. Star Counselor is a resource that we've used for a while, but they lost their funding, so it's no longer available to the district. We have two things that SHAC has selected to recommend to y'all to take the place of that. One is Natural High, and the other is Random Acts of Kindness. That'll cover courage, integrity, respect, responsibility, caring, and inclusiveness TEKS. We still are looking to cover trustworthiness, citizenship, school pride, and gratitude. And then the other thing we're working on right now is for suicide prevention. We don't have anything in place for that currently. It's also a really big, important topic, so we've taken a lot of time to try to vet the resources, and what we're finding is there just isn't one resource. There's not one size fits all resource for that. These are some of the resources that we're looking at and currently going through to kind of try to pick from things and piece together something that we can recommend to y'all. That's the Suicide and Crisis Center of North Texas, Grant Halliburton, Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation, and Erica's Lighthouse. So those are things that we're currently reviewing right now. So yeah.
Very good. High five. Woohoo. Yes. And so we're just asking, we're recommending those two resources, and we're asking that you guys take action to allow us to utilize those two resources.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? If not, would someone please make a motion?
I make a motion that the board approve the SHAC recommendations for the following resources: Natural High and Random Acts of Kindness.
Thank you.
Got
And
it.
those are free, just so you know. It didn't cost anything.
Free is always good.
Free and good.
I remember
How
that
about
my
that?
days
Free
on
and
Shack.
good.
Yes, we always look for free stuff.
We always did look for
We
free
always look
stuff.
for
We
free
were
stuff.
some, yes.
All right, we've got a motion from Chief Campbell. Do we have a second?
I second.
A second from Ms. Schneider. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. The second action item, thank you, Dr. Wooten, by the way. 12B is discuss and take possible action regarding the request for quote from for legal service providers. There are being recommended for Walsh Gallegos, Kyle Robinson, and Rolson, and then also Eichelbaum, Wardell, Hanson, Powell, and Munoz. And Dr. Rue, I believe this is you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. As you know, I brought to the board earlier this year a discussion about looking at legal services providers that would be available within public education law, and felt that it might be worth a review of what's out there and provide an opportunity for the district to ensure that one or more firms' qualifications and their capability to provide the legal services that we need in a timely manner would be enhanced by an occasional review. I think every 5 or so years, it's good to lift your head up and look around and see what else is out there, and are we satisfied with where we are, and can we, do we want to do anything differently? So we had that conversation. An RFQ was released. We sent it out to about 30-plus law firms. We received 10 responses, and of those 10 responses, 5 firms were identified for subsequent interviews. Following the interviews and the scoring according to the rubric, which was also submitted in the RFQ so that people knew exactly what we were looking for, it was determined that those 2 firms, Wash Gallegos, Kyle Robinson and Rolson, and Eichelbaum, Wardell, Hanson, Powell, and Munoz are the most qualified to be approved as legal services providers. In your attachments, you do have the rubric and the scoring of that. You also have a list of the 10 firms, and those below the blue line were not identified as having the qualifications that were a fit for us. The ones above were and were interviewed. I think it's worth noting that in this particular instance, we did discover that about 6 or more of the firms that we interviewed and checked their references also were ones that worked in tandem. As it turned out, we checked with all of the references across all of these different districts that use these firms. There are 7 firms within the reference list that use Walsh and Eichelbaum. They both rose to the top in their work as well. The benefit of having more than one firm is that it does allow the district to pull services that are an expertise area for that firm that do allow us to tailor the type of work we need. Eichelbaum is really strong in its construction law and its contract law. That's an added benefit to us, as well as the ongoing work in special education that Wash Gallegos does so very well with us. So these are the 2 that we're bringing before you tonight, and that's the recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Rue. Anybody have any questions? You've all looked at the information that was provided. So I'm opening up for questions or discussion.
How are you going to decide which law firm you just choose to use, and then future superintendent, obviously you're an interim, but the future superintendent, how do we decide who they're using, and who's the board going to use? Because we also have TASB legal services that we pay for as well with the board.
Yeah, and let me speak to TASB first. We included TASB in our list, even though I knew that TASB does not. I wanted to give them the opportunity. They do not do legal service provider for districts. They are a reference. If you call them and talk about something, they'll say, here's what we think we know, but check with your attorney. So but we did do that. The identification of certain strengths and the depth of each of these 2 firms' field is significant, and they're both highly rated across the state. So I would imagine when it comes down to construction law, as you get further into creating contracts, working through an at-risk, however you choose to do your construction process, that's where Eichelbaum and its experience might be the one. Kyle checked on those extensively. All of us were very, very specific about the references and the work they've done. We were looking for, so your question really is answered by situational. What is the task to be done? Which firm delivers the best service to us in a timely manner over time? I believe that 2 firms are effective, and I think it's wise to do that. In previous experience, there were 4 law firms that worked with the district. Some were strictly bonding attorneys. Some had a very strong strength in a particular field, and they were able to add value to the district's work because of that.
So I guess you guys have qualified this. As change comes, as it always does, how does the next group come? Are we going to define who to go to in certain topics? Are we going to, as a district, going to define that for the next batch of employees that come this way? How do we define this?
Well, it's somewhat organic, isn't it? That as topics come up, the firms that have handled those for us and have shown their expertise in that area will be the first go-to on those. So it is somewhat organic. and the ongoing work never stops. You never put a bow on something and it's done. There will always be ongoing work within any system, whether it's personnel law, it's special ed law, it's, whatever that might be. So I don't know that we would have a chart that says if it's this, you have to go there, but I do believe that past experience and service that meets the needs and is quality work would cause a department to continue to look to that group for their support. And as far as for the board goes, I will say that every law firm works in tandem, the district and the board. They do day-to-day work in support as administrators might have questions or need some guidance with something. However, when it comes, there is a clear understanding that ultimately they are representing the district and the board in tandem. And if there is ever a conflict between personnel within the district and the board, they're there to support the board.
And I could also envision, we don't want to do this very often, obviously, because you're talking about additional costs, but I envision scenarios where we might want a second opinion, that we use one, and for whatever reason, we're not comfortable with their recommendation or their ruling, and then I think it's beneficial to have a second one so that we can, verify. That's just like going to get a second medical opinion.
Right. And also, it is not legal to negotiate fees, et cetera, when you do an RFQ like this. However, you can request their fee structure. And I will tell you that of the 5 firms we interviewed, these 2 firms had the lowest fee structure.
We ready for?
Okay, yeah, any other questions? If not, if someone would make a motion, please.
Mr. President, I move that we approve Walsh, Gallegos, Kyle Robinson, and Rolson, PC, and Eichelbaum, Wardell, Hanson, Powell, and Munoz, PC, as the most qualified to be named as legal service providers for Decatur Independent School District.
I've got a motion from Mr. Joyner. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Chief Campbell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to our last item, or next to last item, information, 13 information. Ms. Watson with our financial information.
You have your financials from the November of 23 and 24. This is basically the first quarter for this year. Right now, you were sitting at 24.1% for revenue, which is up about 3% from last year, and that is mainly in your tax collections. So we're doing a great job, and people are paying their taxes early, which is good for us. Expenditure-wise, though, we are up just about a little bit, 1% more than where we were last year, but that would be expected because this is a very tight budget this year, and there is very little contingency in here. But right now, you're sitting at a $1.6 million deficit. Last year, you were sitting at 1.8, so we're a little better. And then also on food service, you'll notice that your federal revenue on food service, last year we were sitting at $83,000. This year we're at $212,000. It's going to be a little skewed because last year we had the cyber incident, which caused us to have some lag in the revenue for food service. So that's why you see that big difference there. And then you also have in this report the first quarter investment report. Good and bad. Our interest rates are slowly declining, which is good for interest rates for people building houses. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But right now we're sitting at 4.7% for the interest rate, and we started in September at 5.2. So we are slowly on the decline for the interest. In the general fund this year, to date, we have collected $171,000 in interest. Last year, we were at $195,000. So it is a little bit of a hit, but hopefully we'll be able to make the $600,000 that we have in the budget for that. So we will monitor the interest rates but it's kind of out of our control for the most part. So, any questions?
Okay. Thank you. Item 14, adjournment at 7:32. We are adjourned. And again, I've got lots of cookies here.